Can you just stop? Pleaded Celia. She was tired of Chase's overprotection. Do you really want to know why I'm here? He stared at her. He knew he had crossed the line again, but he was just so afraid to lose her. And Chad, of all people, that felt unforgivable. I'm here to ask him for money, you idiot. He offered to lend me some to help pay for Dottie's treatment, she said, eyes filled with tears. It hadn't been easy to call Chad and admit she needed help. It was as if he couldn't hear her. All he heard was, I called Chad, and he couldn't get past the rest. Chad took the opportunity and smirked at Chase. Hey man, a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. She was right to call me. Plus, Celia is so talented in what she does. How can a man not hear her out? I always love getting her calls. Shut up, screamed Chase. Celia's tears turned to anger. Stop it, both of you! I'm an actual person, not an object to be won or owned. She then turned to Chase. How can you embarrass me like this? I want you to leave right now. He stared at her with a sour feeling in his heart. Didn't she understand that he was just concerned about her? That he wanted the best for her? Chad wasn't right for her. He was only in it for the chase. Didn't Celia deserve better? Plus, he thought, I'm worth way more than Chad. His feelings got caught in his stomach and settled in with the one too many glasses of wine he had for dinner. What right did Celia have to call Chad? Didn't she still think of him as a loser? A piece of trash? A poor man? Is that it? He thought. Is it the money? Is Celia really so shallow that my worth as a husband is attached to my bank account? He was torn. He wanted to prove to Celia that he was a worthy husband, but he wasn't ready to reveal yet who he was, who his family was, what he had given up to be with her. He turned to her and said, Leah, do you really think I'm a loser? She was momentarily at a loss for words. Leah, answer me, he begged. Do you really think I don't have money? Is that all you need? His emotions were now rising to the surface. He spoke up for every insult he'd suffered, for every time he hid who he was and taken the mockery in stride. Do you even know how much I've done for you? I chased Rothman and richer than your wildest fantasies. Celia and Chad looked on in shock as Chase thumped his chest and spewed nonsensical ideas about his wealth and status. He continued, pointing at the entrance to the restaurant. This. City Grill. $30 billion. Mine. He was on a roll, and it felt good to finally come clean. Blitz Tech, the company I used to work at. I bought it. My bank is about 13 figures. He couldn't stop. The information was exploding out of him. And here, he gestured toward the parking lot. 100 Mercedes-Benz G500 SUVs. All mine. He had finally reached the apex of his admission. Everything you see, even the ground where you stand right now, belongs to me. He paused, then shouted at Celia. I've done so much. Why can't you see it? The onlookers like Chad and Celia, Chase looked like he was deranged. It was obvious he had one too many drinks, and his outlandish admissions were rolling out with a slight slur. Celia chalked it up to his humiliation at seeing her with Chad. But she didn't understand why he had gone so over the top. It was an embarrassment not only to him but to her. He could ruin everything for her. Her heart felt like it was being stomped on. She ran up to him and slapped his face, hoping to wake up from his delusions. Stop it, she screamed. You're acting insane. Nothing you say is making any sense. Celia burst into tears and pushed him away from her. She couldn't hold it in any longer. It's obvious you've been drinking. I can smell it on you. You need to leave. I don't care where you go as long as it's not here. Chase looked around and saw that it was no longer just the three of them at the edge of the parking lot. A crowd had formed. Dinner patrons stopping to marvel at this unexpected pre- or post-dinner show. If the three of them had been close enough, they would have heard the hushed whispers of the onlookers. Look, what's going on? I think that man just caught his wife cheating on him. No, that man is obviously drunk and he's harassing that couple. I heard he claimed to own City Grill. No, if he was my husband, I would throw him out of my house. Chase could see that everyone was looking at him with not only disdain but pity. Everyone was sure he was a complete and total loser, even his wife. At this moment, the parking lot erupted with activity as 5 motorcycles rapidly pulled in from off the street. One of the motorcyclists, a large man with tattoos, circled the trio a few times before stopping right in front of Chase. He shouted through his helmet, "Yo, are you Chase Rothman?" Chase instinctively pulled Celia behind him. "What's going on? Who wants to know?" He replied to the motorcyclist. "It's him," shouted the motorcyclist to his friends. Suddenly, the other motorcyclist dismounted and began walking quickly in Chase's direction. He whispered something to Celia, and she ran in toward Chad and away from the approaching men. He was soon surrounded by the group of imposing men. Their leader lifted his hand to give the signal, and everyone rushed in at once. There were too many of them for him to fight back. He was strong, but he was no match for the group of them. Within seconds, they had him pinned to the ground. He struggled briefly before realizing that they were only causing him more pain. He turned his head and saw Celia clinging onto Chad. She was crying and screaming at the motorcyclists to stop. "Celia, go!" he shouted. "Chad, get her out of here!" While ordinarily he would never ask Chad to do such a thing, in this moment, he was more concerned about his wife's safety than his own pride. However, she refused to leave. She was crying and screaming at the top of her lungs. Chase was also sobbing, yelling back at her, "Celia, go! Please!" The leader of the group signaled for Chase to be brought to his feet. He was tired and unable to fight back. His hands and legs were being held and he couldn't move. Suddenly, the leader of the gang pulled out a knife and ran toward him. He stabbed through the air and the knife sank into Chase's stomach. He closed his eyes. He felt no pain. He heard someone scream and he slowly opened one eye. He looked down and saw Celia lying on the ground. It was Celia that had been stabbed. In the commotion, she must have broken free from Chad and run over to him, throwing her body protectively over his. She had sacrificed herself for him. He fell to the ground and picked up her body. She was unconscious. "They stabbed her!" screamed someone in the crowd. "She's injured!" The motorcyclists looked at each other in shock. They had been sent to rough up Chase, not to stab his wife. This wasn't the plan. Neither was it the plan to have an audience. Things were getting out of hand. The organization of the group fell apart as each man instinctively set out to protect themselves from what they knew was an increasingly dangerous situation. There was a cluster of commotion and a cacophony of lights and sound as the motorcycles pulled out of the parking lot at a clip and sped off in a myriad of directions. He shook with anger and screamed at Chad through the tears. "Hurry up and call an ambulance."
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.